Today, I'm in New York City, my home base. Today, I'm attending the Fordham Law Blockchain Regulatory Symposium. The meeting was organized under the Chatham House Rule. I'm not allowed to identify who said what. Because of the caliber of the speakers and the quality of the discussions, I thought it would be worthwhile sharing the quotes anonymously. The organizers, however, have authorized me to share the agenda and lineup, which were published ahead of the event. In order to avoid identifying the speakers indirectly, I will scramble the quotes and overlay them on images that do not correspond to whoever is speaking. Here we go. Most countries are moving towards a more unitary form of regulation. Today, most countries have a prudential regulatory authority and a conduct regulatory authority. We in the US have the states and the federal levels, and within the federal level, we have lots of different agencies. Every so often, under both Democratic and Republican administrations, we say the system is broken, we need to fix it. But instead of redoing the system, we add more layers to it. And now that we have a new product that touches so many parts of the regulatory structure, we have politicians that have a different agenda and grab on this or that piece of regulation to advance it, so they make the process untenable. Wyoming is the anti-New York. Wyoming does not regulate by enforcement. Different blockchain companies are dealing with different pieces of the puzzle, but nobody is dealing with the whole puzzle at once. Let's remember that blockchains are both assets for financial networks and data networks, and that they're both a political statement against, number one, the legacy financial system or establishment, and number two, against private hyper networks like Google and Facebook. Licensing is a mark of trust. You use it in your marketing materials, right? Two benefits were identified when discussing smart contracts. Number one, ambiguities are less likely on code. Number two, verifiability and automation or programmable workflows are highly desirable. Rules on securities are underpinned on the capital of the institutions who have to pay fines when the rules are broken. Some jurisdictions need to create new frameworks for digital assets, but we don't need that in the US. Properly structured SAFTs have promise at the front end, but there might be problems at the back end. Innovation is critically important. New York has always led in innovation, and continue it must, and continue it will. The BitLicense addresses the financial use cases, but not the non-financial ones. There are different preferences on privacy. Some people care about it, some don't. The public blockchain embodies the values of American capitalism like nothing else. Innovation and regulation ought to be siblings. Wyoming has a regulator that understands the technology. Sitting in the audience today, it was fun to hear some regulators that, speaking politically correctly, needed some more education. Some of the problems and shortcomings identified when discussing smart contracts include how to turn code into evidence, the lack of flexibility, the inability to freeze funds due to external unforeseen reasons, or to enforce, for example, an automatic stay in the case of bankruptcy, the inability to exercise discretion, how to provide notice conspicuously when required by law, making smart contracts fault-tolerant, global anonymous transactions, jurisdictional differences, common law versus code, conflicts between shareholders and token holders. Sophistication is required of consumers to understand and handle tokens, and how to regulate all the entities participating in crypto custody. And the key question, who is accountable in a fully decentralized world? In Wyoming, as opposed to elsewhere, your custodian is not a counterparty, just a service provider. The US will eventually be seen as a model. Wyoming is the Delaware of digital assets. Tools are needed to translate the technical parameters into human language. The time of the transfer is a time to re-evaluate the SAFT to make sure transfers happen in accordance with the securities laws. The claims made in marketing materials, like proof of reserves and monetary policy, need to be verified. All these crazy prescriptive rules that New York has put on this industry are in the wrong place. While some advocated for forbearance when demonstrating good faith, others said that good faith is not enough, that attestations in audits require verification. People may not like the answers, but there is engagement with the regulators. The SEC is doing what they can with their jurisdiction. There won't be any major change until the law changes. Wyoming is the anti-New York. Wyoming actually cares about the regulations that really matter, like getting back your assets from a financial institution and ensuring that your financial institution remains solvent. New York deserves credit for stepping into the void. Writing code itself is not a crime in Wyoming. My favorite quote of all was actually a question. What are we missing out by not trying to innovate? I hope you found this report from the Blockchain Regulatory Symposium at Fordham School of Law useful.